So, wheels are coming off.
The wheels on the bus
are coming off.
Don't go round and round anymore.
Go clunk, clunk, clunk.
Definitely. And one's missing.
At least one is missing.
It's kind of pretty earthquakey.
We're on the rims.
Politically speaking.
Yeah.
Out there. I knew the world would get strange, but this is pretty strange. And I'm sure there's more to come, but...
Well, the strangest thing that's strangest for me is that the geopolitical or political events that are taking place under the auspices of our fearless leader, President Trump.
God Emperor
Trump, the God boy, man-child Emperor Trump, is these changes are all... It's a case of stuff that we have been saying for 25, 30 years, saying that this is how the world actually works, this is the reality, this is how it all actually happens behind the scenes, and all of the political speak and media speak about it is all just for covering it up. They're trying to pretend that we live in this world of,
principles,
rule of law and principles and international order and every democracy and liberal democracies and freedom and civil society and all that kind of stuff.
Fight to protect.
We're like, all that, it's all bullshit. It's all just a narrative to cover up how the world really works. And so the weird thing for me is to see what we've been saying, like I said, about how the world really works behind the scenes, now being openly admitted, at least by, openly recognized and enforced or, lobbied for particularly obviously by the American government under Trump, and then to watch. So that's the unreality part of it. It's like, wow,
that's new.
I thought we would just always be we would always just
lie to ourselves and pretend.
No, we would always continue to forever. We would just be, voices in the wilderness type thing. Saying this is all bullshit, they're lying, this is not how it works, here's the reality of how the world works. And I figured we'd always have to do that. We would just keep doing that and they would keep covering it up in the way they always have done. So it's kind of weird to see them go, yeah,
resources,
that's what we're doing. Yeah, we're an empire, we do it whatever we want, fuck y'all. If you don't do it, it's our way, it's my way, the highway.
If you don't give us that by June,
do what we say,
we'll sanction you.
We'll sanction you, invade you, or take your country. It's a Wild West basically. And that's so it's like, oh, they're finally admitting it. Great. And then to watch all the rest of them who actually, particularly in Europe, I suppose, and in other countries, but who aren't ready for that and who are shocked by that and who are attempting to keep up the narrative on their side, like the Europeans trying to keep up the narrative, like their response to Trump and all this kind of stuff is, we stand for the rule of law and, democracy and freedom and all this kind of stuff. They're trying to keep up the facade, but it's failing. It's not working because, well, it presupposes a breakdown of the international order, because that international order, the faded international order that they've been talking about for so long, has been being upheld by or enforced by America. Not enforced in the same way that we can see it being enforced now, but it was propped up or facilitated or motivated, let's say, by the Americans. So when they
stop using,
break ranks with it, forget about it. Like, the lackeys aren't going to be able to pretend that it's still that way.
Yeah.
When the empire that was actually, was a steward of it all, including the cover-up, has now dispensed with the cover-up. And it's not just saying that that's not the way the world works. They're not. It's not just they're agreeing with what we've been saying all these years now, but they're giving examples of how that's not how it works. By, for example, just invading a country, overthrowing the government and saying, we did that for the oil. Well, what else are we doing for, you stupid? You all stupid? You think we did it for freedom and democracy? You guys are stupid. That's not how the world works. It's America. This is our hemisphere. Fuck you all. And yeah, we're taking Greenland too. Europe, screw Europe. NATO, what's NATO? Some kind of throwback or something. What, NATO? Whatever.
And the Euros are like, but
But
we were allies in World War II. Shut up.
Yeah. But the international order. But. So the sooner they actually just stop the bullshit and get with the program, basically.
Yeah.
And they seem to be moving in that direction,
And I was thinking along those lines, there's a similar thing that happened with Trump starting to announce like his appointments for the Gaza administration, the Board of Peace and whatever, and like
Peace Board.
You can get on it if you give us $1 billion. And it's like that's
Premium
actually
members.
how it works.
Yes.
And now they're just open about it.
And Trump will control where the money's spent. In other words, Jared will.
Yeah, pay to play. It's all about. It always has been about pay to play.
That was supposed to be a scandal that would bring down the Clintons, and then Trump literally sets up pay to play.
Because that's the reason he can do that is because that's the way it has always worked. Yeah. The fact that he can do that seamlessly, just transition to this kind of my way or the highway, and the strong do what they will and the weak suffer what they must. If that was truly a break or a change in the whole way that the world works, it would
be far more shocking.
It would be far more shocking, and it wouldn't be as you wouldn't be able to implement it as quickly as he has. All he's done is pull the curtain back. The whole edifice behind the curtain was there and has been built up over the past however long. So simply pulling the curtain back just shows that this is the way the world works. And so we're going to continue on with this now in the open because we're dispensing with the narrative bullshit. That's, Trump just doesn't have time for that. It's like time's a wasting, the hour is late. The wolves are at the door. The barbarians are at the gates. We need to shore up our defenses, grab what we can.
Yeah. So, Greenland. He's threatened sanctions on 8 NATO countries. Sanctions, tariffs, but tariffs, sanctions. In one post, it could be sanctions, and the next, it's tariff. He's calling it tariffs, 10% tariffs. It's a long, rambling post, but it doesn't really matter because we've heard it clearly enough from him. Trump announces tariffs on 8 European countries. The short of it is to force them to the table to towards the end, he says, to basically sell us Greenland. Can you click on the image so it's bigger? My eyes are getting... No, that didn't help.
Well, better.
Okay, let's see. He gives a new-ish rationale to it. It's not purely I want it because it's me. It's midway-ish. This tariff will be due and payable until such time as a deal is reached for the complete and total purchase of Greenland. So that is what he wants. He wants to buy it. And then he goes into a rationale. Russia and China aren't mentioned per se, but it's that the US has been trying to do this transaction for some time. Many presidents tried, blah, blah, blah. Denmark has always refused. Now, because of the Golden Dome and modern-day weapon systems, the need to acquire is especially important. Hundreds of billions of dollars are currently being spent on security programs having to do with the dome, including for the possible protection of Canada. And this very brilliant but highly complex system can only work at its maximum potential and efficiency because of angles, meets, and bounds if this land, Greenland, is included in it. So that's a more specific version of Russia and China are going to get it if we don't get it first. Is he just pulling that out of his ass, or is this sounds like a Star Wars defense initiative a la Reagan in the 80s to do with missile defense coming over the Arctic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he has his concrete reasons.
At least that's their narrative.
Yeah.
They're securing their hemisphere. Their hemisphere. It's about it's a grand strategy. It's basically, like I've said before, it's this is the project for the new American century. What he's doing is just a continuation of the project, of the planning out and the laying out and the attempting to fulfill the concepts and ideas laid down in the PNAC documents just in the late 90s about securing American hegemony to the greatest extent possible in the 21st century, in the context of rising, increasingly, peer competitors, specifically Russia and China, not just on the military economic scale, let's say. So this is Trump just carrying on that project, basically. And it was always going to get to the point, I suppose, where the US was going to have to turn itself into kind of, in a certain sense, compared to what it had been before, Fortress America, where it secures its back door, securing its back door in terms of South America. Venezuela was a reason for that, obviously very specifically related to China, etc. All these moves have multiple applications in a certain sense, securing Venezuela, kicking the Russians and the Chinese out of Venezuela, securing your back door type thing, and Greenland is about your kind of advanced guard, your front door in a certain sense, missile defense and all that kind of stuff. Venezuela was also about kind of attempting to deal a blow to China, in terms of Chinese, at least reducing China's ability or access to raw materials it needs to service its economy, because it was getting and planning to get more Venezuelan oil for that purpose. So you take Venezuela, not only to kick the Chinese and put the Chinese and the Russians out of Venezuela, which is like your backyard, but you also take the oil that the Chinese in particular depended on, or have been depending on to some extent. Not a lot, but to some extent. You whittle away at it. And that ties into the kind of Halford Mackinder and another guy who actually talked about the Rimland, the idea of who controls Eurasia, controls all the resources of the world, basically. But that doesn't really matter who controls Eurasia. It's what's most important is who controls the Rimland, which is the kind of like the outskirts of Eurasia, let's say the borders of Eurasia, because it's through those borders of Eurasia that anybody who controls Eurasia or powers within Eurasia would need to use for economic and resource access, which is why they're gearing up for, they're projecting power over to Asia, to the Rimland, basically, and have all sorts of ideas about, and not just the Rimland, but the Rimland includes the Middle East as well. So you've got to take out Iran, get control of that resources in the Middle East, all of the resources in the Middle East. The last one standing kind of thing is Iran. They tried to take out Iran. We'll talk about that, I suppose. But they're going to try again at some point, probably this year sometime, because then you control the oil supply out of the Middle East, which also makes China dependent on you if you control all of those resources. And then shipping, obviously, as well. So it's multifaceted, it's not just about controlling the resources, but it's controlling, if the resources come from the Middle East and go to China, you don't want to just control the resources, you want to also control shipping lanes and access points that China needs in order to receive those resources. So it's all a big grand strategy, basically, and they're trying their best. And it's competing powers. Obviously, China and Russia are, have their own strategies to push back against that. So it's all in play, basically.
It reminds me of the Napoleonic Wars. They were for breaking the continental blockade, where the Brits, and later the Americans, didn't like a continental mass under one system against them. Similar-ish. I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's all very understandable if you look at the whole. That's why Willie Cullen Brzezinski called the grand chessboard. Just look at the world as one piece, It's all one piece. I mean, you zoom out, let's say. You don't have to zoom out. You don't have to go out to space, I suppose. You can just get a map, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look at a map of the world. And then if you realize that you have the resources and, the manpower and all that kind of stuff, military power and economic power to control large parts of that, then the world becomes very small to you. You just go, let's way, move here, move this here, move this here. When you're moving your little soldier on the map of the world, you realize you have the resources to actually move large numbers of military resources to that particular place. You're not just playing a kid's game,
The Euros are on their knees pleading with the Americans, though. But you have Greenland, if that's what it is. You've got bases. You can scale up. Go for it. You're the biggest. We know you are NATO, so go for it. What's the problem, Donnie?
Well, it's not just about.
So it's more.
Again,
it's not just.
Well, the narrative was
Trump has said explicitly, no, we need
ownership of it, because then ownership of it, there's no impediment whatsoever to doing whatever you want with it. And obviously, it's more than just putting military bases or putting a Golden Dome missile defense shield there, because you could obviously negotiate that fairly quickly with your European quote unquote allies, and no one would complain about it. They would all say, yes, very good. We need to keep Russia and China back. Yes, we'll help you to fund it, even. But they want the resources that lie on Greenland as well, and that's a different issue. There's also environmental and human rights and displacement of people, and you're going to be digging big mines and all that kind of stuff. So you need to have. You don't want to bother with that. Trump doesn't bother with. Trump's main the main line of force motivating Trump is that he does not want. He's got no time to deal with bureaucracy. Not interested in bureaucracy. United Nations, NATO, bureaucratic, lumbering bureaucratic behemoths, bullshit. We don't need that. We don't need all this red tape bullshit.
What's the rush? He himself is running out of time.
He's only got another couple of years. He has to put things in place.
But does he see a more altruistic urgency? Is it that
Russia and China are going to take over the world?
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah,
that's what's driving it
for sure. As well. They're going to eat away at America's influence, and America's influence is very finely balanced. Let's say America's global dominance, let's say, is very finely balanced, and things can snowball. So you got to shore it all up. It's all Russia and China's fault, really, for being uppity countries who had this notion that they would assert themselves and assert their influence and power as is their right. It's like, why are you even doing that? Why don't you just leave things the way they are? Why don't you just pay homage?
Yeah, submit.
Just leave things there. The Europeans are all coming out with the Danish Prime Minister said today, I think. It depends. Of course,
the French Danish Prime Minister, the most angry.
Frenchies are Gallic shrug, or whatever. Not Gallic shrug, Gallic grimace. I don't know. Or
those Anglos, they betrayed us.
Well, there's a certain kind of arrogance and pride within the Frenchies that would naturally make them, respond in that way. Just out of, whether or not they can put anything behind it, we don't know. But the Danish Prime Minister said today, we're conducting an intensive dialogue with our allies about Greenland, and it's clear that this issue goes far beyond our borders. We will not be blackmailed. We're a loaded statement right there. Break that one down, Neil.
It's clear that it's about more than just Greenland. We will not be blackmailed. If you don't give us Greenland. Well, he's already threatened tariffs, but it must be more than that. It must be something to do with American military presence in Europe.
Could be multiple things, but I think my read on it was that it was a broader. He's pointing to something that is fairly kind of evident for anybody who's looking at it, thinking about the situation in the broader context of that. He says it goes this problem with question about Greenland goes far beyond our borders, i.e. far beyond Danish borders or far beyond Greenland's borders.
From a European perspective.
Huh? goes far beyond our borders or our borders. Greenland, Denmark, the Danish Prime Minister saying our borders.
Yeah.
So Denmark or Greenland.
So Europe.
Huh?
It's European concern.
No. Well, maybe, but I think what he's saying is he's speaking to the fact that this question about Greenland, that Trump, from the American perspective, is not just about our borders. It's not about Greenland. It's not just about that the message they've got from the Americans that this is a global issue. This is something that imperils the entire world. This is a danger. Trump has said that basically in that long text you just posted from him. So it's not exactly something new, but the fact that he's just reiterating it, I suppose, saying that that this issue with Greenland is not something we could say, why don't you just have Greenland? There you go, just put your base in Greenland, there you go. Well, obviously it goes way beyond that. It's not about just putting military troops in Greenland. It's about America wanting to own Greenland, wanting to own Venezuela, and wanting to own as many other countries as necessary in order to confront a threat to America and therefore to the entire world, to the entire global system. And this could, I think Trump said it in that long text, something about the destruction of the world or something, or imperils the entire world. Whatever he means by that, I mean, if he thinks that the entire world is the current world order, let's say, led by America, well then yes, you can say that it imperils the world/world order. And but that in itself is also part of the blackmail. It's like, look, if you don't go along with this, you're all going down. The entire world is going down. We're talking about economic collapse. We're talking about destruction. We're talking about destruction of the entire post-World War II world order, even before that, and that it implies destruction and chaos for everyone. So if you don't get on board with this, if you need to be made aware of this.
So, but when she said, because PM's a woman, she said, we will not be blackmailed. Are you suggesting that she agrees with Trump in his greater perspective, and that we, together with the rest of the West, won't be blackmailed by Russia and China?
No, we'll not be blackmailed by
the United States.
Yeah.
Okay.
I.e., they don't believe it.
Right. They don't believe the urgency, the need.
But they're too stupid to realize that.
Do you think that
Trump's trying to tell them? They're too stupid.
They're too naive. They're too, they don't understand what's going on.
They don't understand what's at stake. You know,
dollar collapses at stake.
Okay.
And they don't understand. I suppose you might say they don't understand that means that they're going down with the US.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You're all going to die. You're in here talking to me as if this is some little debate over your little territorial integrity of Greenland, your little offshore island type thing. You think it's like, oh, international law and stuff, and can't we work this out like friends? And Trump's like, you don't realize you're going to die. How can I say this? You're all going to die if you don't.
And it's not the Russian nukes,
which they then
it's the collapse
take,
of the dollar.
Which then
just Trump say
all
that
together. It's all a snowball. It's all systemic collapse.
One hopes that they actually articulate that in the meetings. This is the Danish foreign minister who went with his Greenlandic equivalent, even though they come under Denmark's rule, to DC after meeting Rubio and Vance on Wednesday.
And we therefore still have a fundamental disagreement, but we also agree to disagree. And therefore we will, however, continue to talk. We have decided to form a high-level working group to explore if we can find a common way forward. The group, in our view, should focus on how to address the American security concerns, while at the same time respecting the red lines of the Kingdom of Denmark. We expect that such a group will meet for a first time within a matter of weeks. And then I will pass the floor to my colleague from Greenland, Vivian Mosfeld.
Yeah. And this is them a few moments later. You can comment on this while Scotty sets the video up. He gave us a nervous laugh. Yeah, this is them after the meeting.
That was a sneaky fag. Hunting out the smoke. Sorry, everybody.
That's her. That's Greenland's FM.
Yeah.
Look on her face.
Yeah, they're all unhappy. They all think it's serious.
So, well, no, you just said it is deadly serious, but that they don't get it. because they think it's just an issue about Greenland per se.
Well, that's what they're trying to say. That's their narrative to the media. Like, they're not going to say exactly what they're thinking to the media. Like, I suppose, but
one wonders if part of the reason for their, shock at that discussion was something like that. Like you're saying, was conveyed to them. This is existential for all of us.
Yeah. If
it's not just America being selfish.
If the Americans, well, it is America being selfish, but if the Americans went that far as to explain it to them, but they may have just left it at, look, we're taking Greenland one way or another.
Yeah,
you can say what you want. Go out there and say what you want to the press, but we're taking Greenland. It's going to happen.
We have fundamental disagreements, but we agreed to disagree. So they were told we're taking it.
Yeah, we agreed to disagree. So you disagree with me, with America taking Greenland. I can agree with your disagreement about us taking Greenland, but we're going to take it anyway. Well, I just want you to know that I would disagree with that. That's your right. Now you go and say that to the press. Say whatever you want to the press. But
at the end
this
of the
time
day,
next year, all your base are ours. All your base will be ours.
I follow a couple of accounts that try to summarize roughly what Chinese netizens are talking about during the week, and they're having a field day saying Trump is exactly right. We China are secretly trying to take Greenland. It's just egging it on, just because they probably think, well, we've no skin in this game. Go on, blame us. This will be fun.
Well, the thing about it is like.
So because of all of this, and I'm just as entertained as everyone else by it, because all of the Europeans are up in arms and they're gnashing their teeth and wailing and yet at the same time, like, Trump is just throwing more eggs on their face and said, what was he saying that Greenland they recently increased their
troop deployment.
Their troop deployment to 2 dog sleds.
Yep.
And then the Europeans, they basically prove this
by announcing an exercise,
by saying we're going to be sending troops, and the Brits are like, so we've sent an officer, and the Dutchies are like, we've also sent an officer,
and
French sent 15,
and it's utterly absurd.
The Italians sent 13 or something.
Yeah,
it sounds like the start of a joke, 13 Italians, 15 French, and 2 Germans walk into a bar.
Walk into a bar in Greenland. But the funny thing about it is that you have NATO, serious disagreements with NATO, the impending collapse of NATO, or NATO's already collapsed, let's say, and I couldn't help but go, well, look, everybody, you don't need to think too hard about this. Haven't you all been saying over the past X number of years, or however long, that Putin was going to, his goal was to destroy NATO and to invade NATO countries, invade Europe. That's what imminent, right? Well, it looks like now that it's Trump that has destroyed NATO, and he's gearing up to invade technically a NATO country, Greenland, or a part of a NATO country, Greenland. So the obvious conclusion is that the Russiagate hoax back in the day there, 2016, was not a hoax at all. Putin and Trump clearly have been working together all this time. Because Trump right now is obviously implementing or achieving the things that you all knew that Putin was attempting to achieve, and it's actually Trump that's doing it.
40 chess, baby.
Hello, the two of them have been working together. Do you know what I mean? I mean, if the person you thought was the guy who was out to get your stuff doesn't actually explicitly himself get your stuff, but his mate gets your stuff in the way that you thought this guy was, well, then clearly those two people are working together.
And he was a Russian influence agent all along.
So it's obvious, right? And I was saying that as a joke, a bunch, obviously. But then I find people like members of
they're saying it.
Estonian parliamentarians saying stuff like, all those involved in the Greenland issue must not lose sight of a central point. Russia and China's strategic objective is to dismantle the West's collective defense and isolate the United States from its allies. So basically, read between the lines there, he's saying Russia and China are doing this.
And this is
This
meeting
breakup
their
between us, breakup with Trump and all that kind of stuff, and the invasion of Greenland, it's all Russia and China doing it. That's only one step away from saying Russia and China are working with Trump to do this. And then this is this guy was more explicit, and he's like, probably, I don't know, you'd expect maybe more from him, but he's not really, if you know who he is. Timothy Snyder. He's actually he's a Yale professor of Eurasian and history, specializing in Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union. And he said Putin, failing in his Eastern European war, summoned his American clients to organize a diversion in Western Europe. This guy he's a Yale professor of history, specializing in the history of Central and Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union.
But he doesn't specialize in Greenland.
Oh, there you go.
And that's Western Europe,
that's
so
problem,
he doesn't know. He's so specialized.
This guy's teaching
he can't
people.
Transfer his knowledge.
This is a Yale professor who's actually, posting as if it were real.
Yeah. As if it's a given.
A joke. A kind of like basically a joke that I just posted on social media. Like he's obviously not posting what I posted, but he's basically.
No, but it's in effect, it is a joke that you said, but he's saying it for real.
Yeah.
This scroll down so we get the full Joe joke originally. Wasn't it meant to be Putin who was planning to invade a NATO member? Now Trump is openly talking about doing exactly that. Only conclusion is that the Russian collusion hoax wasn't hoax at all. This is... That's the thing. You posted that because I bet a part of you is thinking, I bet they're thinking that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
Why does it say this is?
Maybe you have to click on it, get the full thing.
Oh, this is the coming to fruition of a long-term Putin-Trump plan. Despicable.
Yeah. Well,
and I said that obviously tongue-in-cheek, but apparently it's not just midwit retards who would go, "You're so right. I think the same." It's Yale professors going, "Yes, that's true. That's what's happening." Like, dude, it was a joke. Yeah, but the joke's on you. You thought it was a joke, but it's real. And I'm like, no, it's actually a joke. No, you have to be deranged to actually think that. You have to be so far up your own ass to believe that, in your own, high in your own farts that.
So you have two completely contradictory ideas here. They see Trump breaking up NATO by doing this, and it can only help the near-peer competitors for the Western system, which includes the petrodollar that undermines it. They understand that, at least.
Yeah, they're
panicking because they're like, why are you breaking up the system that risks, blah, 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 all kinds of danger for us. Trump's like, no, you dickheads.
They're not even wrong.
I'm trying to save the system because Russia and China are rising anyway. And if that requires NATO, I presume Trump doesn't care now. Well, his signaling he doesn't care if NATO falls.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The point is that he's doing it in America's interest, not in Europe's interest. That's why the division, that's why the disagreement is happening. Because they understand why
they're trying to save themselves.
Yes, they understand why he's doing it, but then they would extend that to the Americans would extend that to the rest of their lackeys and the others that are in the golden billion and stuff. That you all need to know where your allegiances lie here, because you're so hooked into our system, you're so hooked into to the American global order, basically, that if we go down, you go down. So it's in your interest, obviously. But there's a bunch of people in Europe and elsewhere going, well, we do have an option of just cutting. If we do it in time, we do have an option of maybe jumping ship and siding with your enemies, and then the blowback would be lessened for us. So you'll get it all.
But it's a bit late for that.
And well,
no one.
Carney's up for it. But Carney turned around and said that basically China's Canadian's new most reliable partner. Which isn't strange, because basically the Americans just cut off. They just more or less, maybe it hasn't happened immediately, but they basically just nixed Canadian crude oil, heavy crude oil from Canada. Said don't need yours anymore. You know why? Got Venezuela's.
Just before.
And Canada's like, well, what the fuck are we going to do with our oil? America don't want it anymore. Don't need it anymore. China, you up for it? China's like, yeah. We take it. And Connie's like, you're our bestest friends now.
just before I want to say something about Canada, but I also wanted to get Emmanuel's.
Aviators.
He's gone dark mode. Remember when Dark Biden? This week he's gone. He's been the most outspoken in Europe about it.
He's gone highway to the danger zone. He's gone to the highway to the danger zone.
He's not happy at all, and he complained last week before this really.
You know why he's wearing glasses, right?
Yeah, there's an explanation for it. He burst a blood vessel in his eye, but still, it's interesting timing. And he come on, we know he's conscious of his image, so he picked his glasses carefully. For what it's worth, a German newspaper, I haven't heard it.
I could go somewhere with that, but I won't. I hope you don't know where I might have gone with that. You know Adam, right?
No, Joe, I don't think I do. Where would you go with that?
If you know, you know.
Sorry, go
Sometimes
back up the headline a second.
Domestic abuse victims do things to hide their...
No, worse than that. It's very mundane, actually, in a certain sense. Anyway, carry on.
Carry on.
France has been the most stridently, even more so than Denmark, against the US just taking Greenland. And there's a split with London over it. Naturally, the Brits are more likely to be amenable and pliable to trying to do whatever it takes to keep the alliance, because Britain is the most exposed, of course, because of their special relationship with Washington. Yeah. Okay, so for what it's worth, now look at this. This should either be confirmed soon or dismissed. A German newspaper reports, the headline reads, I've had it translated, France on the verge of leaving NATO, ? And that quote from this woman who's an MP in France's Assemblée Nationale: the United States is not our ally. For the first time, a parliamentary motion calling for France to withdraw from NATO has been submitted. Mm-hmm. The initiative by left-wing MP Clémence Gouetet has struck a nerve in the country. She has indeed submitted a motion for a discussion about it. Now, she's part of La France Insoumise, who are kind of like pretty commie. So that may be a kind of... She's always probably comes from an anti-imperialist, anti-NATO background herself anyway. Mm-hmm. But...
well, France last in, first out, right?
France, yeah. I mean, they've been taken out before.
They only joined in 2007, so not that long.
Okay. Then Canada happened. This is probably one of the things that shocked me most this week. Not because it happened, but because of who it happened under. I mean, Mark Carney, if anyone knows about his history, former Bank of England, head of the Bank of England, died in the wall, Bilderberger type. He's gone to all the right clubs, schools.
He's a globalist through and through.
He's an what the Russians would call your Anglo-Saxon globalist. He couldn't be more committed to Pax Americana, Western Consortium, rule in perpetuity. Then he is prime minister, and he has gone to China and made this deal with China. The optics are super interesting. So on the one hand, you can say, okay, well, we'll see where it goes. But the Chinese seem to be convinced, because they gave the full state welcome to Carney. They got the full, they have all ways of sending kind of messages and signaling their satisfaction with a guest, someone who's come to kowtow. And one of them is that they don't even welcome you in certain rooms. But here he got the full Great Hall banquet, honor guard and everything. And Xi smiled, for what it's worth. So you mentioned that this might be a response to Venezuela, or that has...
Right.
Yeah. Carney, when asked about it... and let's be clear, he called it a new strategic partnership, said that this has been in the works for about a year in Canada. And the decision was made, he says, when he was elected. When was that? Last year? I think it was last year. yeah, I don't know. Do you want to say anything else about this? I'm still in shock because this is like a neoliberal saying I'm now on team multipolar, and the West is done, or it's going the way of the past anyway, as the West.
Because
in other words, he's reading the situation going on out there, and instead of responding like Trump, and maybe he's an idiot for that because Canada will be pulled down anyway by the collapse of a petrodollar. But
trying to hedge the bets, you know, he needs to sell Canada's oil to somebody.
Yeah, okay, yeah. He mentioned energy as one of there was 8 MOUs: energy, agriculture, and finance.
Mm-hmm.
Should be the foundation of our new strategic partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And his New World Order comment, which he said with great emphasis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a new multipolar or different, not even multipolar.
Multilateral. He doesn't say he's multilateral.
Yeah, multilateral, whatever. Different groups basically making deals with each other based on America's upending of the table, basically. Stephen Miller. Yeah, I mean, you say he's neoliberal and stuff, but that's all irrelevant, really. You know what I mean? Political ideology is irrelevant when it comes to making money, like, you know, keeping your economy going.
But he's also like...
Well, he oversaw the G8 program to make it financially attractive for investment in green energy when it wasn't. That was one of his key, between being Bank of England head and Canadian PM.
Mm-hmm.
They came up with this unbelievable, the carbon credit scheme. That's his baby in part. WEF, how to make the money work for our ideological goals. Was it. That's what I mean when I think of him as neoliberal. He's not someone who sees the trends in reality and then fits in with it accordingly. That's what I'm shocked about, that he can see objective reality and then actually make a...
But that was a trend. Green energy was a trend, like, in terms of making money.
It seemed totally contrived to me for ideological reasons, but like they...
What do you mean? But it's making money, like...
Yeah,
all ideology is
They had to
is
make
downstream.
it make money, because back in the day, the way you made money was big oil. And that's actually coming back now, kind of. They had to artificially de-incentivize oil and hard energy investment. And Germany went, oh, okay, yeah, and they went full bore, and they just a few months ago blew up their last nuclear reactors because they seriously bet on it not being viable in the future. And literally this week, Merz has gone, we made a strategic mistake by doing that.
But he said we made a strategic mistake by destroying our
energy, nuclear energy source. Yeah. It's a mix of things. It's partly ideology and realpolitik. I'm surprised. That's all I'm saying. I suppose I'm surprised that Carney has enough of a realist in him. He surprises me by doing that, based on what I assumed, previously. Anyway,
but no,
and I wonder now who else, because if he can flip, I mean, what way UK now? What way does can even Keir Starmer, start to say, you know what, Moscow is in Europe after all? That's what Merz said this week. That undoes 10 years of no, Russia is not in Europe culturally, geographically, nothing. To, yeah. We must remember that the biggest country in Europe is Russia. He said that this week. I was like, what the hell? System upgrade,
Yeah. Well, I mean, they go along with the current thing until it's not the current thing anymore. Yeah. They have to change.
Yeah.
What do you call them? This is listen to Stephen Miller here.
Denmark is a tiny country with a tiny economy and a tiny military. They cannot defend Greenland. They cannot control the territory of Greenland. Under every understanding of law that has existed about territorial control for 500 years, to control a territory, you have to be able to defend a territory.
Interesting. And this is after the Americans convinced small countries like Greenland to give everything they had to Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
To the point that I think the Danes are trying to claw back some F-16s, probably to defend Greenland. The Yanks have some gall. That's just okay. Europe. If it was a master plan, okay, get Europe to throw everything into a giant funeral pyre in Ukraine, and then move in and gobble it up on the cheap. Greenland first, but
yeah, and
but that's what the thing that's like getting. It's like
Canada's
a monkey wrench into my like trying to figure out what's going on is case in point, Carney, who is a globalist through and through. He was quote unquote elected, just like all the rest of them that were quote unquote elected. Like he was installed. So this doesn't seem like it's something coming from his mind. So there's someone else who's putting these ideas forward. And
agreed.
What is the plan there? And that's where I'm still trying to process to figure out.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. That's another reason I'm shocked, because I know Carney is such a team player, with his other Freemasonic buddies and the former PM Stephen Harper, who's on the opposite side on the political spectrum in Canada. He was. I remember back in the day, we slated the shit out of him because he was the most pro-US lackey in the early neocon years. It was ultra Bush, whatever America wants. Hitch yourself to the wagon, you'll be fine. He was asked about this week, and he said, if you'd asked me my advice a year ago, I'd have said, no, just double down with the US, it'll be fine. We'll hang on to their coattails, basically. That's almost what he said verbatim. But as it happens, I was asked my advice 3 weeks ago, and I agreed with this plan. That's neocon Stephen Harper of the right in Canada. So a consensus obviously formed in Ottawa for this to happen. And that's where I'm even like, it's got my wheels turning further. Consensus doesn't generally, it basically has not ever formed in Canada on its own without Five Eyes, London, the other Anglophone countries, and usually DC. I presume in this case, not DC. They were left out of it. There's people in State Department now, and the Rubio saying we got to kick Canada out of the Five Eyes. Can't trust them anymore. So that's why I'm wondering which way UK now. Where are they going with this?
Yeah. So it's obviously all bringing. Like started this year. They've had a good year to mull it over, and they probably they don't just like make things up as they go along type thing. They get a read on certain situations. Like Canada is, you're talking about Carney and the green energy and all that kind of stuff. Like Canada is building loads of new small modular reactors, whatever, loads of new nuclear power plants. Do you know what I mean? So and Carney's, he's new on the block. Like you can't really. Do you know what I mean? The prime minister isn't the decider in a certain sense. Do you know what I mean? And regardless of what he said in the past or whatever, none of it. It's all narrativized. Do you know what I mean? So there's no point in taking what any of them say or even what they do and thinking that it's some hardcore ideology that they all really adhere to and they're going to do it to their dying day. This is the hell I'll die on because I really believe in that. That's bullshit. That's not how politicians work. Like, you know what I mean? None of them are like that. Not at least none of them are in as actual heads of government or within. Significantly large countries, none of them are actually ideologues over and above. Their ideology that they espouse is always downstream from personal power and wealth, and doing a good job, reputation. You'd have to be extremely stupid, to run your country into the ground. That's why I don't know what the Germans are about, but the fact that Merz said, yeah, that was a bit of a mistake, whatever. That's complete. That's massive fecklessness. I don't know. That seems to be informed by ideology, or whatever, just totally misreading the situation or not having foresight. But you wonder who's behind that as well. Who is pushing that? Beyond the government advisors and all that kind of stuff. You can't really lay it at the doorstep of any of these overt politicians because very often a lot of them are, the last to know. Like they're given
they're given their
They're
scripts.
told afterwards what's actually happening. Decisions are made in back rooms, and then they're informed to go out and talk about it in front of them. And that includes ideology.
All the shit that came before is forgotten.
Yeah.
Like, we forget, but Canada was the third-party proxy workaround that the US first swung its economic sanctions baton at China with. Huawei.
Mm-hmm.
The daughter of the chief of Huawei was abducted in Toronto and held against her will.
Yeah.
That's how that shit kicked off in 2018. And there was no official contact. There was they were kicking out each other's envoys from their embassies in respective countries.
But that just speaks.
And
to
now
the
it's
fact
a strategic partnership.
Yeah, but that speaks to none of it being personal. Like,
yeah,
it's hard to keep it in mind all the time. But you have to keep in mind that none of this is personal. You know what I mean? It's all presented as personal, but these people don't take any offense at any of this stuff. You know what I mean?
No, but that sounds infrastructural. That sounds locked in, like one thing, and then change the whole track so that the entire past track here of this last decade is.
But that's because of Trump. That's because of America.
Yeah,
Trump has done that. You know what I mean? So there's not much. There's no point in blaming any of the lackeys of empire for responding, for doing an about turn, whenever the empire itself has done a massive about turn in a certain sense, at least has upended the whole. And it's not just about them pulling back the curtain. And this is the way, like I was saying, this is the way it's always worked. There is a difference in Trump's policy, his Don Roe doctrine, basically, which is American isolationism and America first, as in we're cutting loose all this excess baggage, and a lot of Europeans are excess baggage. You've been living off American largesse for a long time. And we simply don't have, in the new world and with rising peer competitors, we don't have the resources to be able to carry you people anymore. So it's like you got to swim on your own. So see you later. To a large extent, and that's what has them all. So when America drops something like that on the world, basically on these people, well, then they have to suddenly make a fairly dramatic shift to the same extent that it was a dramatic shift by America.
Yeah. So if Canada's Carney can do that, then by year's end...
Well, you're talking about the Five Eyes. The Five Eyes is America. Five Eyes doesn't exist anymore. In the same way NATO doesn't exist without America, neither does the Five Eyes. So forget about Five Eyes. Like, Five Eyes is going the same way as NATO.
By year's end, Germany and Russia are in strategic partnership?
Yeah.
For example?
All of Europe.
And Britain.
Maybe not the Brits.
It's 500 years. This is more than just a little change. This is 500 years.
The Brits will be last
policy.
Well, no, I don't think the whole of Europe. But
it's not personal, I know, but
no, it won't be all together. I don't think because of those differences, and the Brits in particular are kind of a wild card because they're supposed to special relationship with America and stuff, and the way they're integrated with them. But that could fall as well. But I think what you're going to see is, along with the disintegration of NATO, you're going to see, in one way or another, the disintegration of the European project, the European Union. We'll have various different European countries, all to one extent or another, realigning with Russia.
Unless Russia joins the European Union.
No.
Forms the biggest fucking union.
Not happening.
On the block.
Nah.
And guarantees Western Europe security against those Yankees.
Well, yeah, that would have been the same way. That should have developed already.
Plants Oreshniks in Ireland.
But the whole Ukraine war was an attempt by the powers that be to stop that from happening, to sour relationships between Russia and Europe, so that wouldn't happen, But
intentions and results in this day and age. Intentions and results.
Well, it worked for a while, right? We've gone quite a long way to doing it, or at the very least make it very difficult for European countries to suddenly turn around and go, oh, Russia's our friend again. But that can happen. They don't care about precedent. They don't care about what came before. This is the new reality. But isn't this new reality completely different, completely the opposite of what you said the reality was yesterday? Yes. And what's your problem with that? But I want consistency. And they just go, whatever. And carry on. People can be brought around to whatever.
Yeah. the European people could easily be brought around to
because they were never taken
to alliance with Russia.
because they were never that, at least in the mind of the average most Europeans, they didn't follow along. They were told all the time by their governments and by the media that we all hate Russia, but most Europeans were like, for what? For why?
Exactly. So it's not impossible that could turn quickly.
Yeah. As long as they see that it's in their interest, you know. And it may well be, like, I mean, if there was any rational outcome of all this, it would be Europe turning back towards Russia and China economically, and Russia from a point of view of energy and defense cooperation, and in opposition to the US. Yeah, that's the problem. You know, the US talked a great game for 100 years of a whole unified, globalized world, and we're all friends, and we're all under the stewardship of America and all this kind of stuff. And everybody believed it, and everybody got used to it, and all the systems and structures were put up to support that idea. And then for the Americans to turn around and then just trash it all overnight, basically. It's a bold strategy, and let's see how it works out. But it could end up. It looks like it will. It's starting already. It's producing the result of turning much of the world against America. America will be able to secure some, especially in its own backyard, some alliances and allegiances, and keep some lackeys there. But in terms of the other side of the Atlantic, the other side of the two oceans, I think it's headed in the direction of most of the world versus America. Yeah. And not even in different ways, you know. I mean, not in some kind of all-out war or anything like that, but just that we're not friends anymore.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see what a world looks like where we're not all friends like we supposedly have been over the past, 80 years. Most of us friends. Especially since, well, let's call it the last 30 years since the fall of the Berlin Wall. It's all a very short time frame.
Will Trump accept Chinese tankers steaming in and out of the west coast of Canada for the oil supply? Or will he be like, oh, look up north there's a lot of Chinese ships up there.
Those will be Canadian tankers shipping the oil out.
We've got to do something about that for our national security.
Going to start boarding Canadian tankers.
No,
I don't think it'll go that far. Who knows? But I don't think so. No, I mean, he can't. Trump's not that crazy, to his credit. Like he's carrying on the PNAC philosophy of a new American century where America reigns supreme, whatever. But in the context of he's scaled it back because he has to. You know, the neocons had the idea that they would send their military all around the world and beat everybody into submission and maintain American hegemony throughout the 21st century, but it's not working out that way. And Trump, to his credit, at least recognizes that. But he's doing the only thing he can do in that context is, okay, look, he's recognizing that we can't compete. We have peer competitors. We can't just dictate terms anymore, but we're going to take as much as we can. Using the leverage that we've built up over the past 80 years under global hegemony, we're going to use as much of that leverage and that influence and power we have to get as many people on board with us as possible, and then close the doors. And see how it pans out. It's a bit desperate, yeah, but they obviously believe that that's the only way it can be done, because the alternative is American collapse, and they have a responsibility to not allow America to collapse. So, and they would expand that out to have a responsibility to not allow America to collapse, because that would imply the collapse of the entire global economic system, and therefore it's the whole world that would suffer. So we have a right to protect the whole world now.
But China make new World Bank.
China can make new World Bank and new
with yuan,
new reserve currency, basket of currencies, BRICS. Yeah, as long as Trump doesn't start sanctioning them all and boarding their tankers and boarding their various different kinds of supply ships or whatever. Who knows? I think he's making up as he goes along. This is all new territory. Like, I mean, there's no template for this. There's no reference for how this was done before, really. You know what I mean? In the context of the way the world is today. So it's all kind of unknown. I think he's making it up as he goes along, basically.
London, the UK is going to be So the Bank of England, if you go to their website, they boast that our vaults hold around 400,000 bars of gold worth over 200 billion pounds. That makes the Bank of England the second largest keeper of gold in the world. The New York Federal Reserve tops the list.
Yeah.
That nexus, like that's a question for me. That's which way UK. We forget, but Britain was the first Western country to declare a golden era of strategic partnership with China back in Xi's first year in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
What happened to that? I remember Cameron was like, it was kind of jarring at the time, and the Americans were like, what? It's just sort of petered out. It just never happened. Brexit came along and Cameron was gone. And then subsequent leaders didn't renew it or enact the MOUs that were written. But I know, that reminds me that I know London, the city of London, thought this far back ahead to this time. So I just wonder what they're scheming. They're scheming something. I know it. It most likely it's going to come down to, maybe we'll see a lot more movements. We've seen a few already, but it depends on the outcome of Iran. What happens there?
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know. Obviously, the protest, we discussed the protest last week, but I think it was since our last show that came to a sudden screeching halt, right?
Pretty much.
On Thursday. It looked hot for a few days there. Airspace was closed by Iran, like they expected incoming, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
The protests just scaled up into brutal attacks. I don't think anyone denies that. That's just not just Iranian propaganda. They have plenty of video footage of organized people, like with satellite phones, weapons, firearms. They've loads of video reports of the scale of equipment that they seized.
The Iranians said specifically they intercepted a shipment of 60,000 weapons that was intended to be delivered to Tehran. 60,000 is enough for a sizable army. So that was announced maybe like 2 days ago. And then I saw also that the airstrikes were ready to go. That I think it was reported in the Israeli media that the Israelis were fully on like 100% alert or whatever they would call it. And then they got a message from the US saying stop. And then that was kind of the end of it.
Yeah. And yeah, it was sudden, and we've all wondered what was it that caused someone to pull the brakes. Go on.
Yeah, the media spun it as, the Israelis and the Saudis and the Qataris, whoever, Middle Eastern countries, particularly those three, said, it's not time. The time is not right. Let's not do it. That's what they said. The time is not right. So Trump backed down because at the last minute, which is kind of bullshit because I'm assuming Trump isn't that feckless. I don't think the military and all that kind of stuff, even though it's Trump, his military haven't, gone completely like make it up as you go along type thing. The American military, but you don't. It's unlikely that there would be some very key information that you would have overlooked in planning to invade Iran, for example, that you would have overlooked until the very last moment.
And then someone comes screaming in there, wait, we forgot the thing.
We forgot that we don't have any planes.
We don't actually have an aircraft carrier in the nearby area.
We forgot to put the bombs on the planes. Shit, bring them all back.
We smuggled everything into Iran. It's all in place, but someone forgot the Doritos.
Yeah, exactly.
Call it off.
So you don't wait for, you don't call that off in the last minute. So the thing that actually happened, the only thing that makes sense in that respect is that
the Iranians did something to
because
counter.
basically you had Trump saying, basically the Iranians, it was a color revolution, obviously, typical color revolution, long planned. Israelis were front and center in it, all sorts of agents and assets within the country ready to go. They get the message, they start the riots, whatever, start the protests, they get carried on, they start, like you said, with weapons and all that kind of stuff, start shooting cops, burning places, classic color revolution type activity. But it was all being organized largely by social media, internet, messaging apps and all that kind of stuff. And so the Iranians basically shut down the internet, which the Iranians could do because it was domestic internet, so they shut it down.
10 days down at this point.
So they shut down the internet.
Longest ever.
But then they had a contingency plan for that. Obviously, the Color Revolution organizers in the West had, and in Israel had a contingency plan for that, which was they had already smuggled in a large number of Starlink satellites to replace the shutdown of the domestic internet. So, then I would suspect that the Iranians themselves are probably with advice from the Russians, having had experience of dealing with Starlink in Ukraine over the past few years, give them some kind of technology or some kind of information about how to shut down Starlink. And that's what they actually did, because Starlink then went down. And that was unusual because apparently it's very hard to shut Starlink down within any given country. But that's what happened, because Trump said that. He said that, there's some problems with Starlink, whatever. We're going to talk to Elon about this, to see if we can get, and then his follow-up was that, okay, it all kind of didn't happen, called it off, suspiciously at the last minute. And he then said that, I've got some assurances that they won't be hanging. There's meant to be a lot of hangings of the protesters, whatever. But I've got assurances that won't happen. That's not going to happen. So it's a win for us. We kind of won. We got them to back down. Basically, like, we didn't actually have a war, but there was almost a war. But they backed down because we demanded that they not hang the protesters, and then they agreed not to hang the protesters. So that's a win for us. So we have defeated the Iranian regime, kind of, sort of, whatever. Which all is obviously is cope, right? Because what actually happened was that America couldn't follow through on it. I don't know if the bombing campaign was necessarily imminent. It may well have been. But they realized that the protests had petered out, because not just from shutting down Starlink, whatever, but that obviously prevented them from effectively organizing the protests across the country. And also the Iranians had taken action against all these people and stuff. Had cracked down on them pretty hard, as you would do, as any country would do.
And the Iranian people have been turning in all of the suspicious people that they encountered. So, like, the Iranian, it's not just the Iranian government; it's the Iranian people were like calling the local law office and saying, "Hey, we've got suspicious guys over here," and then they go raid the apartments, and it turns out, they've got a Starlink, and they've got a couple of AKs and knives and all that.
New York Times said 50,000 Starlinks.
Yeah, 50,000 Starlinks. Yeah, so that's a lot. So they realized that the Iranians had effectively nixed the color revolution, and therefore, without the color revolution continuing on, there's no point in doing your surgical strikes, or whatever they were going to call it, because you would need then the actual
force on the ground.
The revolutionaries to continue on. You'd need it to still have a lot of momentum, and then to overthrow the regime. You want the people on the ground, basically, your army on the ground to do the dirty work. You were going to soften up all the stuff with your bombs and stuff, but you needed them there. But they were neutralized, basically, and then bombing the place was going to be completely useless, because not only that, but you would have had the Iranians responding to any attack by the US by probably firing some missiles at Israel and US bases, and you get that for no real change, and it becomes a big mess, and you look really bad. You look like you just provoked Iran to attack your bases and inflict damage on your bases and on Israel, and you didn't actually achieve your objective, and it could have spiraled out of control. So,
do you think the
key was getting rid of stopping the revolution, the color revolution?
Maybe it's an obvious idea, but the strikes in Iran were to kill Khomeini and our government.
Well, they would have wanted people on the ground to do that as well.
And then, broadcast the message: regime is gone, toppled. So just move in, take it over. because that is where Israel left off. If you remember Netanyahu, right at the end of the 12-day war, he updated. He was so excited. It's like, we're going to decapitate the regime. And then he was told to shut up, don't say that. But that was, and they had attempted a strike on Khamenei at that time.
If they could, like, but I mean, either he flees or something, but they
it's kind of,
they provide air cover for the color revolution, you know?
It's an insane plan. If they think that is regime change, that then Iran will transfer to.
It's just about putting a new government in power. The people don't really care. You know, they don't care about what happens on the ground. Things would get worse, obviously, for the people on the ground if it doesn't go well. It generally doesn't go well. There's a lot of chaos and stuff afterwards, but they don't care. They just wanted someone in power who would make policies that were conducive to American influence.
It could potentially wreck the country, though.
That's why they got rid of Maduro, like. And left. What do you call her?
Well,
Delcy, you know?
In Venezuela, it seems by contrast that instead of killing him, they took him. It seems they actually don't want chaos there.
No, but they want someone else in power.
If we're assuming correctly, doing that in Iran would be. Because who have you got? Royalists and the MEK?
Yeah, somebody. You'd work that out as
or more realistically, there are background discussions taking place, and someone from the existing order,
possibly,
would say, "Look, let's just calm down," and that would. So it's not really. Again, it's only like a quarter dial regime change, more likely, as we've seen in Venezuela.
Well, it's change in the policies. They want different policies.
Because the neocons don't like what's going on in Venezuela at all. They're like I said last week, John Bolton's like, that's not how you do it. Lindsey Graham was so deflated. Do you want to watch that? Or have we all seen it?
He was very sad, wasn't he?
Oh, he was so sad.
This must be the day of, so Thursday. He's obviously just learned it's not going to happen. And for a psycho, he sure carries some emotions on the sleeve, because
there are a lot of headlines out there that are, in my view, not accurate. President Trump's resolve is not the question. The question is, when we do an operation like this, should it be bigger or smaller? I'm in the camp of bigger. Time will tell. I'm hopeful and optimistic that the regime days are numbered.
Hopefully the regime is numbered.
Yeah, comparing that video of him to him from a week ago, or just, a few days before, like, that is so... Oh, he's just so sad. When he's like literally like glowing.
Yeah.
From him like glowing with ecstatic happiness at the death and destruction. And
I read that the next day he flew to Israel to discuss further.
To touch the Roman wall. Why did they even headbutt that wall? That's a Roman wall, you know that?
Yeah.
I never even looked into what their rationale was for their narrative. Like,
it's a Roman foundation, but on top once stood the Second Temple. Is that it?
It's still a Roman wall, though. The Roman wall.
It's like BB said. Our focus is to do it right this time.
Do what?
Defeat the Romans. There's a clip of him recently. I'm reading a book about, how
defeat the Romans.
Yeah, today's Romans are, of course, the United States.
And
this time we're going to get it right.
They're going to defeat America.
That's kind of semi-implied in what he said.
So it's all a big Jewish conspiracy, Neil.
But who was it that
the
also...
Heifers and
there was another Israeli official who basically admitted that the U.S. was the battering ram for Israel against Iran. I can't remember who that was, but that was essentially what they were saying, is that the U.S. is our battering ram, so it seems kind of stupid to, like, if this is your big stick that you use to bludgeon and cajole everybody into doing what you want them to do, it seems kind of stupid to, like, throw it away.
Well, the theory goes that they use the U.S. until they don't need it anymore, and then it kind of collapses in its footprint behind them.
They're never going to not need America, though.
Well, that's what we're going to find out in our lifetimes. I'm telling you, they've prepped small town American evangelicals with this stuff for a couple of decades now. The Left Behind series describes in great detail how, when it comes down to the Battle of Armageddon in the Middle East, centered on Israel, Israel will survive, but it'll survive as a new America. And the refugees who survive the collapse back home from God's wrath and war and plague and pestilence will come to the new Israel, which would be like an evangelized Judeo-Christian Israel. It'll be America recreated in Israel, whatever. But the point is that back home is a smoldering wreck. That's drilled into their heads that that's coming and nothing can stop it. So they must give everything now to Israel so that they have a chance to be saved on the ark, in quotes, that is Israel.
So Iran should just nuke Israel, and then there's no hope for using it as an ark because it's an irradiated glass parking lot.
Yeah, but then the prophecy doesn't come true. Then Jesus doesn't come back.
Oh no!
It has to happen in this sequence for JC,
no.
for the return of JC. You see?
Not Jeebus.
It's that old thing that people do where they have a grand plan to get stuff for themselves, whatever it may be, and it's cloaked in this more or less convoluted, complicated narrative. What Neil described there as the convoluted narrative. But because it's expansive and it's global in a certain sense, and it's quite a big plan, right? But behind it all is just stuff for us, stuff that I want. Tell me why you really want that. I told you. God promised it to us in the Bible 2,000 years ago. It's not that I want it, it's that God insists that I want it.
It's that I made up this document and it says God promised me this thing.
Yeah.
Now ignore the fact that I just said that I made this up.
Yeah.
But
you know the way like a lot of shooters, mass shooters and stuff, a common theme amongst them when they're caught, if they're not killed, when they explain why they did it, a lot of them would say that God told them to do it. God spoke to them and told them to go and kill all those people. That's pretty much Israel's narrative, if you think about it. For all the killing and bombing and stuff that Israel does, it's basically God told us to do it, which is eerily close to the narrative that psychotic, deranged, mass murderer shooters have. Now that doesn't tell you something about the people who occupy the land of Israel, then, well, it should.
So, in Joe was right, number 758. Machado met with Trump this week and gave him her Nobel Prize. And he said, thanks.
Told you I had to perish.
With that big smile.
I think he's extra pleased because the color scheme of the framed medal is a perfect match for what he designed for the White House, the Oval Office. There.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to fit perfectly in
right
the Oval Office.
On the wall.
Right there behind him.
Guess who else in history has been
He's got no shame.
gifted the Nobel Peace Prize?
Heinrich Himmler.
Close.
Goebbels.
Goebbels. I think was it Norway's? Someone in Europe got it in 1937 or something. A Norwegian, Knut Hamsun. In 1943, Hamsun sent his Nobel medal to Third Reich propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels as a token of his admiration. I'm not saying Trump's a Nazi, but history rhymes. So. History rhymes. It doesn't repeat, but it does rhyme. So, yeah, Trump good this week. He met El Tucker, as Tucker Carlson is referred to in Latin America. Don't know what they talked about, but that's interesting because, remember Tucker, as of the last 3 months, he's supposed to be delegitimized, deplatformed by the lobby, which wants him, nixed from public view. But Trump very much rebuked and went against that. Trump bad this week. Well, I don't know. It depends on your perspective. He's threatening the Insurrection Act in Minneapolis, where the protests are ongoing. I don't know if they're riots yet, but there's definitely like mass civil disobedience in that blue oasis against ICE operations.
Yeah. What's your taking that at him? What's going on there?
With what?
ICE, Minneapolis.
I haven't really looked into it, to be honest.
What do you mean? You don't need to look into it. Just give us your blink. What's happening?
Well, that's what I mean. Like, I don't really know what's happening. I haven't really looked at. I mean, I knew that there were riots and stuff, and it's like, well, the shocker. Not surprised there.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the guy in the long coat, and he like comes walking up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the local ICE command chief.
Yeah, and he's like, get those guys out of the street, and then he keeps walking.
Again, history rhymes.
And I was like,
that's all I'm saying.
I like this guy. This guy right here. He's not messing around. He's gonna bash some skulls.
Yeah.
Because these crazy people, they don't have anything in their brains. There's nothing in their head. There's no brain there. There's no actual functioning gray matter. So it's like, knock them up.
Which people? Which people? The protesters or ICE?
The protesters, yeah.
The protesters, okay. Yeah. The rumor in DC, however, there's a rumor because Trump's officially, calling them violent protesters, threatening Insurrection Act and so on. But Axios claims that sources say that he does not like the optics of ICE interactions in blue cities. Which he shouldn't because, and the Axios claimed further that the reason for the reason why Trump has said this privately is because they run their own private polling that they don't trust polls from YouGov and Ipsos and CNN polls and stuff, of course, because they'll bias towards whatever anti-Trump position is, but that they do their own GOP numbers, and Trump's base isn't happy with how this looks, and that he might be. I don't know. I'm still open. Because the optics look bad, right? But if you're maybe Trump wants that, maybe he wants a show of force. Mm-hmm. Maybe that serves his interest, or maybe it makes him look bad, and actually it will massively curtail any real enactment of mass deportations, whether of criminals or illegals generally. We have to just keep an eye on it. There are definitely agents provocateurs in play, but in whose favor?
Mm-hmm.
ultimately who's favorite. An adjunct provocateur is typically going to be someone who's working with ICE. He is one of them, perhaps, and he causes a ruckus, and then they come in and protect him as the real protesters / rioters realize he's a Fed, and they go to attack him, and then a van opens up and they swarm out. They take him away. There's more video footage of that happening this week in Minneapolis. So that's in play. But how does that work? Is that because that's Trump's ICE, or is that because that's long-standing kind of deep state social control at work? And ultimately, it'll produce a situation where Trump goes, "This is more trouble than it's worth." You know, it's a massive caveat. Oh, the whole thing is that this is Minneapolis, so a blue oasis. ICE has been operating smoothly in red places. And rounding up far easier because they don't have to bust down private residential doors to find them. They pick up illegals at courthouses, county jails, because they're already there. Whereas they're getting a monkey wrench or 3 or 4 thrown in places like Minneapolis, which leads to this situation. So I just have to see. There's several dynamics in play. That's why it's really hard, even if you're trying to be impartial, to say what is really happening. And the bad optics, who do they work for? I'm not sure.
Yeah. It's hard to know. You have to always second guess stuff, when it comes to those kind of protests and stuff, because there is a social engineering aspect possible behind it all, But obviously, they're not mutually exclusive. You can have obviously ICE doing what it's trying. Trump's trying to fulfill his campaign promises of dealing with the immigration problem, or appearing to deal with the immigration problem. But there's a lot of people who say that he's not actually really deporting that many immigrants, relative to, you were saying last week, I think, Neil, that relative to Biden or whatever, he's actually deported less. And
I've been fact checked on that, and depends on the numbers.
But it's not that much more, basically.
No, it's not like massively more. No.
You'd think it would be 10 times as many if the immigration problem was so bad in America. There's like 50 million illegal immigrants. There should be boatloads of them leaving the country every single day. But obviously, that's not a reality. You can't. That's unrealistic. You can't expect that to happen because, if there's 50 million people in a country of, say, 300 million people or 350 million people, whatever, and they've been there for quite some time, and at least a significant percentage of them are actually working jobs, well, you can't just take them all at once, right? Quite apart from the logistics of it, in terms of.
Here's the thing, though. Trump's economic policies thus far have been underwhelming, let's say, in terms of job growth. What do you think is going to happen if suddenly 50 million people disappear from the United States? There's going to be a bunch of jobs.
That most Americans don't want to do.
I don't know that's what's going on.
But it's definitely a part of it.
But the point is, if he wants to create jobs, he's got to get rid of the illegals.
Create a load of low-paying crap jobs.
I hope he does it for the H-1Bs.
Yeah. Then they'll get all the good jobs.
Yeah.
Then you can get all those low IQ redneck crackers into engineering jobs. And it's obviously complicated, which is why it doesn't happen the way people expect it to happen, these oversimplified
my plan is foolproof, Joe.
Oversimplified promises that politicians make. We're going to fix the economy. We're going to make the country better in a battery kind of way. You'd all feel better. And stuff will happen, and we'll do good things for the country and for the people. As president, I promise that things will be better the future will be better tomorrow, and other banal platitude-like campaign slogans. Vote for me, and I will do these things. What things are they? I don't know. I forgot. But I will do them. I swear.
Things will be better tomorrow.
The future will be better.
It
tomorrow.
It must be especially difficult for an American president, even if he's a novel, he's not traditional left-right in American context. When it comes down to it, he is much more pro-business. I think everyone agrees with that. He's going to leverage. He's not actually going to try to increase the government role in, say, managing Venezuela. He wants the oil companies to step in and do the bulk of that. When it came down to it, I know there was a big meeting that kind of softened his whole tone towards illegals in the US last year when he met with heads of Walmart, maybe Target, Home Depot, and they laid out some facts of what that would do to their bottom line, and that's when he backed down. If you start coming into fields and just stores and taking out these illegals, you're looking at immediate problems economically. I think the business argument persuaded him away from the high campaign slogan of "get them out," And he said as much, and then he expanded H-1B, and he added caveats to it, and America's the system is too far into.
It's unsalvageable.
Cheap, yeah, it's unsalvageable.
That's the word you're looking for. Realistically, America is FUBAR. It is not just beyond all recognition, but beyond all rescuing. There is no hope. So it really doesn't matter what you try and do. It's just going to die a terrible, horrible death.
Well,
it's just
Trump hasn't given up hope. Hence Venezuela. He's looking for.
That's deluding yourself.
Well, that's core competencies. They can't turn socialist-ish. They can't turn populist and do sudden drastic things internally. But we have this massive military, so we can use it out here. And achieve similar ends. He is focused. His bottom line would be that he has said as much, that he wants the average household to see an improvement in their lot. He wants it to trickle down, but they're so inured in seeing that trickle down come from reliance on big corporations and doing things at scale. And the key factor in that is cheap labor.
Yeah.
At least cheap labor pressure from below keeps prices down.
It's a similar thing with what's going on. Well, you can just say in Germany, where you have policies that are being enacted by the European Central Bank to crush small firms, like small businesses, but also small and local regional banks in Germany. And that has a knock-on effect on the economy. And it's a similar thing in the US too. You need a bunch of thriving small local banks in order to drive small business creation, because big banks don't want to deal with a mom and pop shop. They just don't care because the numbers don't make sense. But that's why they love big corporations. It's because there's more money in that. But that comes at a cost, which is, who does it serve? Those policies serve the people who are at the top as opposed to people at the bottom, which is one of the reasons why China became so big so fast, is because of the central bank policies that they enacted, because of creating a bunch of very small local banks to create the credit that stimulates the economy. Whereas what we're doing is fucking shooting ourselves in the foot and then saying ow, damn it, China.
Yeah.
Why do you do this to us? It's like you're doing it to yourself. You keep doing it over and over, and you expect a different result. Like, and that's partly why I have like such a like I look for the like, where is this going? What's the drive behind it? Because like these aren't policies that they don't know do these things. These are policies that they know do these things, and they're being done deliberately. So obviously, if you're doing it deliberately, then you have some kind of plan. So what's the plan? Don't know at this point.
It's all they know.
Maybe.
It's what they're used to. Anything else is socialist.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's the other thing is because I've been reading Richard Werner's book on Japan and the Japanese banks and the history of the Japanese banking. It's very, very interesting. And the way that he talks about it, I've come to rethink what I once thought about socialism, what it is, what it means, how it works. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's not quite what I thought it was. And then and also he's got some stuff in there about critiques against the Austrian economic school and the libertarians, of whom I've read a fair amount.
Like all good American boys.
And I'm like, he is pointing out some flaws I don't know what to say to that.
This is amazing, people. You're getting to watch live in real time
Conversion.
an American's mind
breaking under the weight.
Yeah. You see, socialism is not so bad after all. Depends on what it is.
Depends on what it is and who's running it.
A lot of it. It's like everything else. It's a mix. What I'm thinking is simply that the whatever about the ideology, the US is just so structurally used to one track of things.
Yeah.
So whenever something happens, or Trump wants to see something happen, he will naturally turn to people he knew in business. He was a businessman. He sees America like a business, and it's a good basis. You know, it's not bad in itself. But the result is that it's a mix. You end up with Paul Singer front and center at the moment, anyway, to benefit from Venezuela, or some other guy. Someone else did a little dig, and some Republican who donated. He's a businessman himself, but he donated $6 million to Trump's campaign. He stands to gain from the first sale of the oil that the US sees from these tankers in Venezuela. So that's rank corruption on his face. But Trump will probably see it as, well, I need him because he'll be the middleman who has the means to distribute it downstream. So I've got to use what I've got, you know. So he meets with Walmart execs last year, and it's hammered home to him in numbers he'll understand that your mass deportations thing is going to wreck this sector, hospitality, picking fruits in the field, etc., and we'll have supply chain issues tomorrow or next week, you know. So he has to soften, and he realizes that, you know, things can't be done as the people wish. Sometimes it's true. Sometimes the crowd is wise and what they want ought to be done because it would objectively be sound. Not always, though. You know?
Yeah, no. You think like specifically about Bukele?
He's great. At scale, it works. Now try and do a Bukele job in a country of 400 million people.
Yeah.
And you had a zero tolerance for criminality. Shit, a lot of white-collar criminals we depend on for their control in their little mafia area, in the labor unions, in the ports, in finance. We
That's
need
what I mean.
them
It's like,
because they're part of the system.
yeah, they're part of the system, which involves human trafficking, which involves drug trafficking, which involves weapons trafficking. It involves all of that stuff, and they need all these people to do all these things so they can expand the empire and control the world. And it's like, let's stop that. How about we just give it a shot and see what happens?
To which Joe says, "We're all going to die."
In which case,
What? Give
Okay.
what a chance and see if it happens. See what happens.
The whole evil empire thing.
Give the evil empire. Yeah. They should. I don't think. I mean, no. What do you mean?
no, like tear it all down.
Oh, tear it all down.
Yeah.
What do you mean tear it down?
Well, he was just saying, like, pull a Bukele, where you throw in all of the large gangs that we know about that are freaking everywhere in all these major cities that are running drugs for the CIA. Like,
And fire all the corrupt judges.
get rid of them all.
Yeah. You know, you can do that internally to America. It might actually forestall some kind of collapse. But
It's the only hope.
Yeah, for sure. But it's going to be difficult because you have a significant percent of the population in the US, however small it is, but it's significant, that can be weaponized or would cause social chaos.
Yeah.
So it's not easy.
Don't throw our poor gang members into jail. They're just victims of patriarchy and white supremacy.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Which is why I said earlier, there's not really much between their ears. So if you crack a few of them,
yeah. The sad thing is that all should have never happened. You know, it should have been something. Trump should have been there. Should have been the president. You know, in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And then there should have been a MAGA dynasty from then on. You know, and things might be different, but it's kind of late at this point. You know, and like I've said before, Trump's been handed this whole situation, and he's just doing the best he can. You know. Not just domestically but internationally, you know, but it's the horse is bolted in that respect. You know, it's a bit late to try and do something about it. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens, but there's going to be a lot of bumps in the road, you know, as things progress. And I mean, in theory, if leaving everything else aside, you know, things could pan out and there could be kind of world peace, you know. Unprecedented world peace, let's say, compared to what's been going on the past while, you know, past 10 or 15 years, or certainly since 9/11, the whole 9/11 war and terror and everything that's happened since then. There could be a period coming out of this kind of chaos that's happening now that might be peace and stability, you know, for a period of time, you know.
Yeah.
It could all settle out. I mean, obviously that this upending of the world order and changing it towards a multipolar / multilateral, whatever world order, you know, changing power structures, changing allegiances, that all implies a lot of chaos and upset and that kind of stuff, you know, and you shouldn't get too hung up on that because it's necessary. If you're going to go through this process, you're going to have to accept the chaos involved in it, you know, but it could eventually settle down into something a bit more, a better world in a certain sense, you know, where it's more equitable and more people are more rational. Countries act in a more rational ways because
of the danger
of conflict, and it's kind of like mad for the whole world in a certain sense, you know.
So baked within it, in itself, Venezuela was shocking and taking Maduro, and we all held our breath, and we thought, "Fuck him!" All of us from 20 years ago having flashbacks to 2003, shock and awe, you know. But 2 weeks later, the CIA director, who presumably he did lead it, we saw him at Mar-a-Lago with Rubio and Trump overseeing the op, flies into Caracas. Shakes Delcy Rodriguez's hand this week in front of the cameras. That's very much, you know, in public. There's no secret shenanigans there. He's showing that he went there. You wouldn't if it's a regime change in the way that we're used to. That absolutely couldn't happen. How he'd be shot? It'd be too dangerous, etc., etc. It's too brazen. But he's shaking hands with the number 2, who's now the leader. No real outcome of what they talked about, but I presume it's progress. I think he went presumably because he had a reason to. Yeah. He wasn't just hoping for some outcome.
No. And Trump's approach to the whole thing is that he doesn't want to do another quagmire type thing. He's doing it differently. He's clearly doing it differently.
Isn't he explicitly said, I thought his answer, this is the sensible part from Trump this week. The good, the bad, and the sensible. He was asked by a reporter, why are we aligning with Delcy Rodriguez, or Chavista herself in Venezuela? And he goes to her, remember Iraq? We fired everyone, and they ended up becoming ISIS, i.e. chaos. And he's skipping out a few parts where the U.S. actually helped ISIS form, but whatever. The upshot of it is we ruined that country and destabilized the whole region. I.e., it was a smart answer, and the libs were like, what a dumb answer. It was a really smart answer because he's saying this is what I do not want to do here. One other interesting update is from Reuters yesterday. This is, for me, it's a slam dunk that it was all arranged behind the scenes before Maduro was taken. Trump administration officials had been in discussions with Venezuela's hardline Interior Minister Diosdado Cabello months before the U.S. operation to seize Maduro, and have been in communication with him since then. So it's regime change, baby, but not as we know it.
Yep.
But what about poor Lindsey Graham?
Well, that may be the upshot of this. They just end up deflated and then die of a weak heart because they're not used to things being peaceful, relatively peaceful and normal, He just totters off, or he gets like John McCain, he gets a tumor, and bye, Lindsay. So, the weirdest news of the week, possibly, one to watch. I was like, what the hell? This comes from the Times in the UK. Geez, they're not included here. Oh, here we go. Behind a paywall, so let's see if this works. London Times. Bank of England must plan for financial crisis sparked by aliens. I swear that's the actual title. First paragraph. The Bank of England must plan for a financial crisis being triggered by an official announcement confirming the existence of alien life, one of its former policy experts has claimed. So I don't know what Helen McCaw, is hearing, but it's quite a rumor. Presumably that spread from Washington to London.
It spread from Washington to London.
So they're talking to each other.
Why?
That this could happen.
It was from Helen McGaw. She's American?
No. She's Bank of England.
She's the one who wrote to him.
She's urging the current Bank of England head to organize contingencies for the possibility that the White House may one day confirm we are not alone either.
Oh, that the White House may. Yeah. That's probably just her opinion after reading all the stuff, the disclosure stuff.
Well, there was another rumor that was related that Trump is supposed to announce that we have made contact.
Yeah, I heard Medvedev write that, but what was he getting it from?
I don't know. I couldn't figure it out.
So that's two people saying it in 1 week. Interesting.
I'm trying to find where I saved it, but I'm not finding it. Because it was really strange because it was going to be at the World Cup. That was at least the rumor that I saw, was that there was this announcement that was planned for the World Cup that Trump was going to announce that we've made contact or something. I don't know.
Let me guess, you read that on X?
Don't think so.
No? somewhere a bit more reputable.
Yes. I don't remember where, though.
Facebook.
Trust me, bro. Sources.
Yeah, it was on trustmebro.com.
Mm.
Yeah.
Let me search for it.
It's a sign of the times that The Times is just like reporting that matter of factly. Okay. Not casting any mockery over it. Yeah, this could be coming down the pipe.
Okay. It was the Daily Star.
Even better than X. That's probably up there with the Weekly World News.
Yeah.
It is up there with the Weekly World News. Yeah, so you can probably safely consign that one to the spurious.
No, that's 100% true, Joe.
Not true. Bin. Yeah, I think that one's a bit of a ways off.
Any other business?
No. I think that about covers it.
They're protesting in Greenland starting today. Big protest in Nuuk.
Been doing it yesterday, day before yesterday. Well.
Outside the US consulate. It's like 100 people. Poor Greenlanders. They're
No,
also
I think-
having nightmares.
Yeah, I think it was something like it was a big crowd. Yeah, Nuuk's something like 19,000 people. There's maybe 1,000 people there or something. So significant numbers for. But yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Zelensky also announced that Ukraine can currently only provide a third of the energy needed
Oh, yeah.
because of all of the destruction of the infrastructure and energy supply lines and all that. So I don't, and you see videos on X of, Ukrainians who are like in their apartments or like the stairwells of their apartment buildings being covered in ice.
Yeah, from leaked pipes.
I don't know that they're going to be able to hold out for very long like this.
No, they keep hitting it, yeah.
There's an intense cold that's settled over Russia and is entering Ukraine.
Has been already.
You were
For about a
wondering.
week now. Yeah.
You were wondering if the Oreshnik was not Oreshnik per se, but the strikes.
No, the strikes that same night on the energy infrastructure. Yeah,
Might have been
we're pretty
timed
big.
for the cold weather.
Well, yeah. I mean, they've kind of been open about that before, like they do it strategically as well, So, yeah.
Minus 25 in Ukraine, minus 30 in Russia, but that's freaking cold.
I think that feels like
Death.
no, that feels like feels like temperature.
okay.
Well, it's still very cold. It's very freezy, yeah, and burst pipes and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, pretty difficult, But it's obviously very hard for Russia to actually, really take out the energy infrastructure. Ukraine's that old Soviet era tech is obviously pretty resistant and could be fixed pretty easily. Probably a lot easier time doing it in a more developed country infrastructure wise.
In
They've
Spain, it's easy. You just knock out a few solar panels.
Exactly,
And
yeah.
the whole thing goes.
Yeah. They've been hammered.
All of Western Europe goes down.
Yeah. They've been hammering the infrastructure system for a couple of years now in Ukraine, But yeah, it's bit by bit. But that's going to probably wrap up at some point soon. They're making all sorts of noises about making some kind of a deal and Zelensky agreeing to. It's going to be hard how he's going to justify that, but because he's always been against it, but agreeing to letting the Donbass go. But then there's also talk of Russia basically planning to take.
Odessa.
Russia said they want the 4 extra. Going to take more or less the 4 extra, next to the four oblasts that they've already incorporated into the Russian Federation. The next 4 over, including down to Odessa. Yeah. But they've been told that repeatedly over the years of the possible peace deals and all that kind of stuff. That if you don't take it now, you're going to lose more as time goes on. But they don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Those people are very, very irresponsible. But once you're setting that kind of course, it's hard to give up, especially when you're making loads of money from it.
And the cocaine keeps flowing.
Yeah.
Lindsey Graham keeps flying over with little packages. Graham visited Kiev, I think, 8 times last year alone.
All right. I think we'll leave it there. For what do you call a fish? No, not a fish. Why can't your hand be 12 inches long?
Because then it would be a foot.
Correct. Next question. What's 2 plus 2?
5.
No. Yes, correct.
Yes, I thought so. I'm smart.
Yes, so yeah, we'll leave it there for this week, folks. I hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back next week with another show on whatever nonsense is being on between now and then. So until then, have a good week. See you later. Bye.
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 Can't stop the signal now.